let's dive in. So integration. For folks who have had psychedelic experiences, you may have had a psychedelic experience. Some say it's the most profound, the most important experience they've ever had in their life. Some say it was the most challenging work that they've ever done. And some say even that they've had mystical-oriented experiences or highly ecstatic experiences, in addition to the ones that are full of that deep life content, sorrow, grief, trauma, those things. Well, if you've had a big experience, you're probably wondering what happens after. It's a pretty interesting transition when you're trying to return back to normal life, but maybe you feel slightly changed. Maybe you feel slightly different, but you're not sure exactly what it is, or you can't put your finger on it. Integration is doing the work that's required to preserve the lessons offered through a psychedelic journey to make use of them in everyday life. I think if I take it a step further, what we hear from Michael Pollan's book about psychedelic experiences, that they are ineffable, hard to explain, hard to define. And it's actually in that ineffability that psychedelic healing occurs. So what I believe is that psychedelic integration is taking the ineffable and turning it into the inextinguishable, that which remains after your psychedelic experience. We know now that integration is a vital component to the psychedelic healing process, if not the most important part. When I break this down to my clients, and when we talk about integration in our live workshops and things, I share with folks that integration probably holds the most bearing. Like if I broke it down into percentages, it's probably 10, 20, 70. 10% preparation, 20% moving through the experience. The experience has to happen in order for you to integrate it. But 70% of the work and the benefit, especially if you're looking for long-lasting change, happens in integration. Because we hear all the time people having psychedelic experiences and feeling amazing afterwards. They feel like they've resolved so many issues. They feel like they've experienced some real healing. And then a few months later, we hear folks report back that they felt the same as they did before they had the psychedelic experience. So why is that? Well, the reason is that these peak experiences, psychedelic experiences, are liminal. They're short-term. They're transitory. And the effects of the experience do fade over time. So integration is about cementing that stuff in. People think that all the work happens during the psychedelic experience or ceremony. That is so false. As you've heard me talk before, of course, moving through and navigating a psychedelic experience requires a certain level of preparedness, a certain skill set. But what we're seeing when we're talking about neuroplasticity or the neuroplastic window and all of these things, science puts on psychedelic experiences, then most folks think, okay, I have this finite window in ceremony or in the experience. Here's where I do the work, and everything happens while I am in an altered state of consciousness via psychedelics. You have a higher chance for long-lasting benefits and change if you go through some type of integration process. And I think furthermore, if you go through an integration process with the support of somebody else, whether your personal community or with professional support, I think that there is a lot of benefit in sharing your experience with others, whether that's a friend, integration specialist, or facilitator. I think sharing your experience does a couple of things. One is that it allows you to express and articulate the experience beyond just your memory. So to be able to talk and feel it and express it out loud in an open way. I think the other is it actually validates the experience by telling somebody else. You're giving them some type of a record of what you had experienced or some of your insights or some of your takeaways. And so that also helps with accountability. Integration involves your entire being. Whatever your belief is about religion, higher consciousness, whatever, this involves your entire being. When I think about that, I'm thinking about your mind, your body, including your nervous system, your mind, also including your memories, your past self, your future self, and then also your spirit, your emotions, your feelings, your felt senses. Integration involves all of it because embedded in the word integration is about aligning and integrating all of the different components and parts of ourselves. And so if we're only using our mind to try to crack this intellectual code, thinking that that's going to heal us, then we've left so much on the table. Most folks who move into psychedelic experiences for therapeutic or intentional purposes often expect that their healing process is going to be this linear stepladder thing. Oh, I've solved and healed that. Now let me move to the next thing. Oh, I've solved and healed that. Let me move to the next thing. Oh, I've solved and healed that. And it's really common for people to think that there's just this continual forward progress in this regular interval cadence. That's probably about the furthest from the truth. We are humans and we are dynamic beings, which means that things can go up, things can go down, lessons that we felt like we learned, we forget and have the opportunity to remember and revisit months, weeks, and years later. There are things that we do great at with our healing process, and then some of those things fall to the wayside. And then there's other things that we do well and some other things that we do worse, right? Because it's just complicated to exist as a human. So there's all these moving parts. All of us have so much going on, both internally and externally in our lives. And so it can actually be a detriment to think that there's some type of timeline or linear process that your healing needs to be on. Don't start integration right after your experience. After your experience, you're in this kind of in-between state where you're returning back to a normal state of consciousness, but also may feel some of the effects of just coming out of an altered state. Maybe some lingering sensations or audiovisual, stimuli. That's what we call the afterglow process. So many people come out of the psychedelic experience wanting to immediately start decoding, assigning meaning to their experience, and effectively going into analysis mode. And so the flaw of this is that by the time you start to label and identify and analyze things, you're turning on a part of your brain that probably was a little bit inhibited in the psychedelic experience. Your default mode network, people hear that, is the thing that filters in information in our life experience so that we can analyze and know what things are worth paying attention to. So you just spent all this time to be in an altered state of consciousness, to increase the potential for neuroplasticity, to lower or inhibit the default mode network. And if you come out of a psychedelic experience and go right into integration mode or analysis mode, you may just ramp up your default mode network right away. And so I explain it like this. If preparation is the doing, meaning there's things to do to move into a psychedelic experience, and in ceremony, we emphasize being, just to be, just to witness, and just to experience, then integration is the shifting into being and doing simultaneously. Integration, psychedelic integration, is also about integrating things into your life. So if you're integrating things into your life, that means that you have to allow life to happen a little bit. Because as you get more life experience, you may look back and reflect on your psychedelic experience a little bit differently, and hopefully in a more impactful and meaningful way. Integration can become this hard to grasp notion. And I think that as people try to define it, they try to label it. And by labeling it, we're making it this whole separate entity on its own. But what I really think integration is that psychedelic integration is a lifestyle. It's a way in which you conduct your life. Now, hear me out. Everybody is already doing integration in their lives. To the degree that they are effective at it or not is a different question. But everybody goes through some type of integration. And I hope that this can land for folks to normalize integration and make it feel more approachable.